I'm in college pursuing a very difficult dual degree. I am also on a stipend and need good grades, or I will lose my funding. Since I am estranged from my family and disabled, I absolutely need this money to continue my studies. My current grades are the equivalent of a perfect A in my country, and I intend to keep it that way. This semester's final was a group project, which was bad enough already. We had to write an essay about a topic of our choosing that's relevant to our field of study, create a scientific poster, give a 30-minute presentation on it, and afterwards get quizzed on the topic. We had 6 weeks to complete all this. I ended up in a group of 3. One guy who's cool, engaged, and puts in effort, and another guy whom I'll call dipshit, who was lazy from day one. At the start, we created a schedule and clearly divided our tasks with check-in days to track our progress. On the first check-in day, dipshit showed up late and forgot his laptop. On the second check-in day, he didn't show up at all. We needed some data he was supposed to have analyzed and compiled, but he kept saying he'd send it tomorrow or that he was almost done. When we pressed him on it, he finally admitted that he had done absolutely nothing and had the audacity to tell us he wouldn't do it either. He told me straight to my face that he didn't care about the grade because you can fail up to 3 finals and still pass. He fully intended to just coast on our work, and if he failed, he didn't care. I tried to explain to him that while it's fine if he doesn't care, this is a shared grade, and him not doing any work means I fail too, and if I fail, I lose my stipend. His response? Well, it's not my problem that you're broke. Well, if that's how he wanted to play it, fine. So I sat down with the cool guy to come up with a plan. We kept our scheduled check-in days, but didn't remind dipshit about them. Of course, he forgot. We worked on the entire project ourselves, created an awesome poster, and just generally did our best work, without telling dipshit about any of it. I did all the research and wrote dipshit's part while cool guy compiled all the data from our interviews and made the poster. We planned our part of the presentation together and were well prepared for the quiz portion. We also spoke to our professor and showed him proof of dipshit refusing to work and no-showing at planned meetups. The professor told us to mark which parts of the project each person completed, and he'd make an exception for our group by grading each person's work individually. Now, it's the day before the presentation, and dipshit texted the group chat asking what he's supposed to talk about. I simply replied, as we agreed before the project, everyone talks about what they wrote in the essay. Dipshit panicked and asked what he was supposed to say, since all he'd written was half a page of poorly compiled data that turned out to be wrong. I told him, tough luck, figure it out. You had plenty of time. Since he never brought his laptop to any of our meetups, he also had no access to the shared files and couldn't improvise anything either. The presentation is tomorrow, in front of our whole class and the professor. Watching him utterly embarrass himself is going to be fun. Update! We gave the presentation in front of the class and 2 professors. I had to go first because of how our topics were divided. I did the introduction, talked about my research, and set the stage for the other 2. Dipshit went second, and all he did was repeat what I said and ramble until his 10 minutes were up. He added absolutely nothing new and just read a few numbers off the poster. Most of his speaking time was filled with furthermore, and so on, ums, and yeah so. It was painful to watch. Cool guy went last, but because dipshit had already read off the stats that were supposed to be cool guy's section, it threw off the flow. Cool guy added all the context, but the damage was done. During the questioning round, I answered all the questions directed at me. When dipshit was asked anything, he replied, "That's part of OP's research, every time, even when it wasn't." Since I'd at least read the whole thing, I was able to answer all the questions, which made me look even better. Dipshit, on the other hand, didn't even meet the minimum requirements. We'll get the grades in a few weeks, but so far it looks like I'll at least get a passable grade, while dipshit is likely to fail. And honestly, I'm fine with that. He was lazy, careless, and disrespectful, and he thought he could get away with it. But the reality is, when you don't put in the effort, you can't expect others to save you. Watching him flounder in front of the class was satisfying, and knowing that he'll have to face the consequences of his own laziness,